Calling all authors, the Your Book, Your Voice podcast with host Robert A. Lane features everything you need to know about narrating your audiobook, but it doesn't stop there. We have special guests lined up from all aspects of the book publishing industry, and we also dive deep into what it takes to be mentally prepared for success as an author and in life. So please welcome your host, Robert A. Lane.
Hey, my friends, welcome to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I am your host, Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. We're streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Again, appreciate you hanging out and joining the podcast. If you're not familiar with who I am and what I do, I am an audiobook coach and producer, and I specialize in helping nonfiction authors who have a great book that's published out there. Maybe you're an author who's listening or watching the show right now. If you've got a published nonfiction book out there, yet it is not an audiobook, that's where I come in as an audiobook coach and producer. So I specialize in helping authors like yourself narrate your own audiobook in your own voice. And I have an audiobook coaching program, which is called Your Book, Your Voice. And I take you through the process of setup and preparation of your own recording space and teach you the fine art of narration, how to do a great audiobook narration, because you do have it in you, whether you've done any kind of public speaking or not. Hey, you know what? You do have a great voice and you will be able to do a great audiobook narration. And then once your audiobook is narrated, I do all the editing for you, make sure your audio files sound great and they meet the exact specifications for publication on Audible, Amazon, and Apple. I call that the AAA. You got to be on those three distribution platforms because most people go there to find their audiobooks. Now, granted, there are other distribution platforms that are out there. And when we do talk, you and I as the author do talk about maybe enrolling into the program, we talk about marketing and strategies and things that are working for you and whether being exclusive or non-exclusive on Audible is good for you. We talk about all those things. And then by the end of the 6-week program, we get you published, especially on those three platforms for sure. So that's what I do as an audiobook coach and producer. Now, today's show is a good one and something that I really want you to think about because it's called this. Every voice has its own DNA. Every voice has its own DNA. And that is so true when it comes to audiobook narration. And we're going to dive into this concept and to really get your head wrapped around again, your uniqueness, which is your unique stamp, which is your DNA. By the way, if you are interested in scheduling a call with me to talk about turning your book into an audiobook, by all means, do so. For those of you who can see the video portion of the podcast, we do have a graphic that's up there on the screen, which has the link that you can book a call. That is my calendar link. It is bit.ly/audiobook onboarding. Again, that's bit.ly/audiobook onboarding. Would love to talk with you about your book and tell you more about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. Also, sometimes I forget to do this, and I'm not going to forget now. And that is, I do have a freebie for you for everybody who joins in and listens to the podcast. I have an audiobook narration reference guide that is a free PDF download, which has some great tools and techniques to help you do a great audiobook narration. And to grab that, it's also a bit.ly link, which is makes it real easy. bit.ly/narration reference guide. Again, bit.ly/narration reference guide. And would love to have you grab that as well. And if you miss any of these links, you can always go to robertlanecoaching.com to book a call, to grab your free narration guide. It's all up there as well. And also on the website, if you want to hear how some other authors have narrated their own audiobook who've gone through my audiobook coaching program, I have some clips up there as well that you can check out. All right. Oh, one more thing that I do want to add is if you book a call with me and you mention the podcast, say, hey, I heard you on the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. For if you do enroll into the program, I'm going to give you an additional 10% off the cost of the audiobook coaching program. So just mention it. And then whether you're here live or you're hearing the replay, I'm going to honor that 10% discount for you no matter what. Okay. So there you go. All right. So let's get into our topic. Every voice has its own DNA. So what does that mean? Your DNA pretty much is your unique signature. Okay, that's your unique style that is ingrained into your DNA. So, what makes up your DNA? What makes you so unique? Everything about you, everything that encompasses who you are. That comes down to the moment you're born, right? Every experience that you've had has created your authentic DNA that makes your uniqueness, your belief systems, your habits, um, anything that makes you you. That is your uniqueness. Your physical body is ingrained in your DNA. That's your uniqueness. And how you sound, your voice, which of course is what we're going to focus on today, is part of what makes you you. So that uniqueness is stamped into your DNA. That is who you are. And that's really a great way to look at yourself as an author and as an author brand, because your uniqueness, your DNA, is not only stamped into your voice, but it is also stamped into your written word. That's what makes you you. Everything about you, your morals and beliefs, as I mentioned, are all part of who you are, and that is what creates your unique author brand. I mean, if you think about it, you've written this great book, okay? And actually, a lot of the authors that have gone through the audiobook coaching program, either they mentioned it in their book or we've talked about it throughout the program, and they share some of their experiences that they've had growing up and things that have affected them and the decisions that they've made to become the person that they are today. And a lot of those experiences that they've gone through come through in the book that they've written. And especially whether you're a coach and you've written a book, or you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you're an educator or teacher and you have a book about your expertise. Maybe you have a book about geography or math, or again, if you have a coaching program, it doesn't matter what kind of coach you are, whether you're a life coach or a weight loss coach or a nutritionist or relationship coach, it doesn't matter. That is your unique style of how you present yourself. And how you present yourself is ingrained in your DNA. That's what makes your author brand, and that's what makes you so unique. Again, your voice is already in your written word. Your style, the way you communicate, is right there in your written word. That is what attracts the readers to your book. And when you narrate your own audiobook, you are preserving the integrity of your author brand. And you are saying and narrating and talking about your book in your unique style. And that is part of what's ingrained in your DNA. That is what makes you so unique. It's already there in your written word, and you're just bringing it to life as an audiobook in your own voice. And that's why I'm a firm believer that all nonfiction authors need to narrate their own audiobook, because no one can tell your story better than you. You've written it, and a lot of times you've experienced it. And it's your experience and your interpretations that make it you. And you can get another narrator, maybe, to narrate your book. That's fine. And I'm sure a professional narrator would do a great job. But you know what? It's still their interpretation. It's not your interpretation. So they may tell your story in a way that you wouldn't tell it. They may emphasize certain words or phrases or concepts that are in your book in a way that you're like, I really wouldn't say it that way. Like, I kind of mean it this way, or I would emphasize it maybe this way. Well, another narrator is not really going to be able to do that. They're still going to interpret it in their way, in their voice. And their voice is not an accurate representation of your voice. So that's why it's really important for you as a nonfiction author to narrate your own audiobook. Okay. The other thing is, when you narrate your own audiobook, you really develop this unparalleled connection with your listener. So between you as the storyteller, you have this great connection with your listener. And when that listener is hearing you tell your story, you immediately develop a relationship. And they feel, as they listen to your audiobook, they feel like you're talking directly to them. And that is a great narration. And that is one of the concepts that I teach in my audiobook coaching program are the intangibles, those emotions and feelings that you bring forth in your narration. That unique stamp, right? There's your DNA stamp right there, because the way you tell your story is what attracts that listener to hearing your story and them being engaged and compelled to listen to you tell your story. And they really do feel like you're speaking directly to them. And that is such a great connection. It's a deeper bond that you create with your audience when you narrate your audiobook. And that's why it's so important for you as a nonfiction author to be the one to do your own narration. Again, I'll touch on this just a little bit about AI. AI is a great tool. It's a great tool to do some research. But when it comes to actual narration, not a good tool, especially for you as a nonfiction author, because what you're doing is you are cheapening your brand. You don't want to cheapen your author brand. You've put so much work and effort in creating your nonfiction book. Hopefully you did it right. I'm sure you did. Where you've written your book, maybe you had a book coach helping you through the process. You've hired a great team of people to help you, editors and proofreaders, and maybe even hiring somebody who can help you with the storytelling process. And then you have book formatters, you have cover designers, the professionals who are great at what they do. You hire them on as part of your team to create this awesome book that you end up publishing. I would say 99% of the authors that go through my audiobook coaching program are self-published authors. And their book is professional. When you look at their book and you compare it side by side next to traditional publishers and a traditionally published book, you can't tell the difference because that's how professional it looks. I know many years ago, self-publishing was like, oh, taboo, right? It wasn't the thing to do. But, honestly, nowadays it is the thing to do, especially if, you're trying to get a traditional publisher, maybe you want to go that route. And, it's a process. It's just like with any creative business, like the music business. Back in the day, people want to get a record deal. And they've been rejected, many times. I've heard the story, what comes to mind? Linkin Park. Linkin Park got rejected 41 times before they ended up getting signed with Warner Brothers. That's a lot of rejections. And I know you as an author may actually go through that process. But remember, being self-published is a good thing because you do retain a lot of control over your book. You are getting more royalties from sales. And same thing with your audiobook. You retain 100% control of your book. And depending on where you want to be distributed, you, of course, retain all the royalties. You don't have to pay out to this person or that person or this organization or this publisher. And especially when you're narrating your own audiobook, as you should as a nonfiction author, you're not paying a narrator to narrate your book. And some narrators actually, depending on who you're working with, they're like, well, I'll charge you this much, but then I want this percentage of sales from your audiobook. Well, you don't want to do that. You want to narrate your own book, most importantly, because it's your story. But, let's keep it, right? Let's keep your audiobook 100% yours, all right? We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I do want to talk about the power of authenticity, right? How to be authentic. and how to do a great audiobook narration and really putting that DNA stamp into your voice. We're going to dive into that when we come back. You're listening to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm your host, Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. You can check me out at robertlanecoaching.com. We are streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. The power of authenticity. We're going to dive into that when we come back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
And welcome back to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm your host, Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. robertlanecoaching.com. You can find out more information about my audiobook coaching program, which is called Your Book, Your Voice. It's a 6-week program that takes you from setup and preparation to narration to publication on Audible, Amazon, and Apple, which I call the AAA. Definitely those 3 platforms you do need to be on for distribution, in addition to others if that's what works for you. If you'd like to schedule a free call with me, by all means, I would love to speak with you. You will talk with me directly, by the way. And let me give you that link for booking a call. And we'll talk about your book, your marketing strategies, and I'll give you more details about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. So schedule your call. It's a free consultation. It's bit.ly/audiobook onboarding. All right, bit.ly/audiobook onboarding. All right, book your call. Again, mention the podcast, and if you decide to enroll into the program, I'll give you an extra 10% off the program. And this is one-on-one coaching, by the way. I coach, I used to do group, but I see that most of my clients prefer one-on-one coaching, and which I love doing anyway. So you will definitely get very unique and qualified service for your specific needs. All right, let's dive back into the topic of today, which is every voice has its own DNA. And what makes you so unique is, of course, your voice and everything about you. Now, I mentioned before the break that your entire life encompasses who you are. I just thought of something, actually. I'll share it with you just as an analogy. There's a YouTube channel that I enjoy because I'm also a musician as well. Rick Beato. It's not paying me to promote his page, his YouTube channel, but he does really great interviews. And I just happened to watch an interview he did with the lead singer of Tool, Maynard James Keenan, who is also the lead singer of A Perfect Circle and Pucifer. So he has a lot of things going on. And he also has a winery, which is actually close by to where I live in Sedona, Arizona. I haven't run into him, but he has a really decent winery, and he has all these other projects that he does. Now, the reason why I bring this up is when they were interviewing him, the questions being asked are, you have all these things going on. You have these 3 bands, you have, your winery, you have, all these other things, acting he does, it's all these things that he does. How are you able to do all that? Or why don't you just really focus on one thing? And, his answer basically, well, it was a couple things. And I think this really applies, again, as an author, as an author who is a creative. Obviously, he's a creative person, but just in a different field. Or wait, did he write a book? He did write a book too, I think. Anyway, the point is 2 things. Number 1, he talked about discipline. The second thing he talked about was his life experiences, and that why he's able to do the things that he does. It wasn't something that is just, oh, I got a whim, I want to do this. He's able to take his entire life, everything that he's gone through that encompasses who he is, right? That's his DNA stamp. That allows him to do the things that he does and do them successfully. So it's not just like, something you learn, right away. It encompasses your entire life. And that's the point that I wanted to really hit home for you as an author, is that your unique DNA stamp, what makes you you, and how you approach your book writing and what you say and everything about you is, again, encompassing everything that you've experienced in your entire life. And again, the other aspect of that interview was discipline, and how important discipline is to be able to be successful. And being disciplined is key. And I'm sure with you as a nonfiction author, you've published your book, you had to be disciplined when you were writing your book. You had to be disciplined in setting goals and setting deadlines and making sure you hit those goals and you hit those deadlines. So discipline is really important. And with discipline, other things that come into play, like time management, being able to manage your time. Remember, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. How we utilize that time and how we prioritize our time can be the difference between success and failure in anything that you do. Now, you as an author, and especially with you narrating your own audiobook, it doesn't take months and months or years to do a great narration and to get your audiobook published. This is why when I created the audiobook coaching program that I teach, it's 6 weeks, because you can get it done. And that means everything. That's recording, and that's editing, and that's making sure everything is ready to be uploaded for publication in Audible, Amazon, and Apple. And by the end of the 6-week program, it's done. You can get it done. And that's where the discipline comes in. And that's where being accountable comes in. So I just wanted to mention that and bring that up, just something for you to think about as an author. Because when you are disciplined and focused and you hold yourself accountable, you can do just about anything you want to do. You can do what you set your mind to do. If you want to write a book, you do it. You set yourself a timeline to get that book done, you do it. You want to record your audiobook and have your great voice narrating it, do it, because you can. And this is why I love doing what I do, because I love being there for other authors, to be their accountability partner, to be their safety net, to be there for them through the entire process, to make sure that the product that they create as an audiobook is top notch. Because remember, this is your author brand. Your brand is your signature. That is who you are, right? We're talking about your voice, which is, again, it has its own DNA. Your written word, your voice is in your written word. There's your unique style, your unique DNA. It's stamped in there. And the quality of your book needs to match the quality of your audiobooks. You don't cut corners. Okay, you just don't cut corners. You don't do AI. AI is cutting corners. Again, having auto-generated fake voice, basically it's not your voice, narrate your audiobook, completely strips away your authenticity, completely strips away everything that makes you so unique, and that cheapens your brand as an author, and you don't want to do that. You have a great ebook or maybe a paperback or hardcover or all three, and then you add an audiobook to that. You have some awesome products that you're offering to your readers and listeners. And it needs to be about you. It has to be all about you and your author brand. And that's why authenticity is so important. Okay. So, how are you authentic? Authenticity comes down to a variety of things. What makes you so unique? Well, let's talk about some of the physical aspects. Your voice, your physical voice, your timbre, your rhythm, your pacing, how you sound, how you express yourself. That brings true authenticity to your audiobook narration. All right, that's what makes you you. You know, if you maybe you grew up in the South and you have a Southern accent, great. Use that to your advantage because that's what makes you so unique. That's part of your uniqueness. Or maybe you grew up in the UK and you have a British accent. Maybe you're living in the United States now, but you still have a British accent. That accent is great because that's part of who you are. You know, or you're from New York, or you're from LA, or wherever. It doesn't matter. That's what makes you so unique. So, embracing your voice is part of your authenticity. And what I mean about embracing your voice is loving your voice. Don't hate your voice, love your voice. Make sure you love this awesome sound that's coming out of your body. That's part of your unique stamp. No one can replicate that like you can. No one can. That's part of your authenticity. Bringing that into your narration. All right. So the physical aspects of how you sound is part of what makes you you. You know, your head is a resonator. That's part of what creates the sound that comes out of your body. Embrace it and love it. Don't ever hate your voice. Okay. I hear it a lot. And I've with authors who go through my program and just with other authors that are considering doing an audiobook, or maybe they don't want to do an audiobook. They're like, I hate my voice. I don't like how I sound. You got to get over that. You got to build the confidence in your voice. You have to love your voice and appreciate your voice because that is part of your author brand. Okay. Now, ways to help make you conversational and help you in regards to your narration when you're doing your audiobook is to have somebody specific in mind when you are doing your audiobook narration. So, let's say you're a nutritionist or maybe a career coach. When I say or I ask the question, who are you talking to? Oh, I'm talking to career professionals, or I'm talking to people who want to lose weight, or people who want to eat healthier. That's not what I mean. What I'm asking is, who are you talking to specifically? What specific person do you have in mind when you're narrating your audiobook? Who are you telling your story to? The best way to be very authentic and conversational is to have somebody specific in mind, somebody that you feel comfortable talking to, somebody that you love sharing stories with. Maybe it's your husband or wife or significant other. Maybe it's a best friend. Maybe it's a coworker, or maybe it's another family member. Maybe it's just somebody, that you just feel connected to. That's really important to have that in mind when you do your audiobook narration, because that does bring out your authentic self. That's how authenticity comes out. Remember, this is the intangibles. The intangibles are the things that you can't maybe physically touch, but you can feel them. And when you feel them, your listener will feel them. They will feel your emotion. They will feel your energy, especially. If you're not in the right frame of mind when you hit that record button, your listener's going to pick up on that. They may not know exactly why your audiobook is just kind of mediocre or it's not resonating with them. It's usually because there's a lack of energy, there's a lack of focus, and there's a lack of authenticity. Authenticity is like the secret sauce of doing a great audiobook, because as we're talking about your voice having its own DNA, that's it. That's what makes you so authentic. It's your unique voice and your unique style and your unique pacing. And really no one else can bring that to the table the way you can. Maybe another way of looking at it is, there's comedians or people who do impressions of other famous people, and what makes it funny. What makes their impressions so enjoyable or funny for a comedian that's doing that. It's because they are able to tap into that famous person's vocal stylings, and especially their mannerisms. And usually what they do is that they kind of really level up the comedy of the voice or the mannerisms. They take it to a level that makes it funny. But that's what makes the point of that is that they're tapping into that person that they're interpreting or that they're doing their impressions. They tapped into their DNA, to their uniqueness, and they do it in a funny way. So the point is, that's their unique style, and that's what makes them who they are. You have the same thing by having your unique style, and that's what you want to bring forward as part of your authenticity. All right, we're going to take another quick break. I do want to talk a little bit more about being authentic and how to be mentally prepared when you do your audiobook narration. You're listening to the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook podcast, almost said coaching program. Thank you so much. We're going to take that quick break. I'm Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. Don't go away.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
It was almost instant. I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. Again, you can find out more about my audiobook coaching program, which is called Your Book, Your Voice, at my website, which is robertlanecoaching.com. I do want to mention our freebie that I have for you. It is an audiobook narration reference guide. Check it out. It is great with some not only physical, but also emotional tools and techniques that you can use to help you do a great audiobook narration. So grab this. If you see the graphic on the screen, there is the link there. For those of you hearing the audio only portion of the podcast, it is bit.ly link, which is bit.ly/narration reference guide. Again, that's bit.ly/narration reference guide. Grab your free guide. It's my gift to you for tuning in. And I'm going to give the link to book a call later on, but we'll do it later on. And we'll talk about getting you enrolled in the audiobook coaching program. And we'll get into that later. But I do want to just finish up about authenticity. Remember, our topic today is every voice has its own DNA. That's what makes you so unique. Being authentic is crucial. You don't want to fake it. You don't fake it till you make it. It doesn't work that way when it comes to audiobook narration. All right. And you can't just, throw it away, meaning, just put it aside and not really take it seriously. Before you hit that record button, you really do have to be in the right frame of mind. And some of the things that I teach the authors who go through my program are exercises that you can do to get yourself mentally prepared to be not only physically, but mentally in the present moment and not worrying about things that have happened in the past, or if you had a bad day, or worrying about things in the future. You need to be in the now. You need to be in the present moment, and you need to be focused. You need to be focused and grounded on what you're going to do before you hit that record button when you do your audiobook narration, because it does make a difference. And this is what I mentioned earlier about the intangibles. Those intangibles, which are your emotion and your energy, when you're bringing that forth, if you're focused and you are grounded and you're in the present moment, that really gets you into a place where you get into a zone. And when you're narrating, you're just into it. You're telling a story. I don't know if maybe you've seen clips of voiceover artists doing characters, or like the behind the scenes of an animation movie, and they just don't stand there and do their voice acting. They incorporate their entire body when they are doing their characters. Now, you don't need to go to some of the extremes that some of these voiceover artists do when you're doing your audiobook narration, but definitely allow yourself the freedom to move around, to be expressive. You can still, be in front of your microphone, right? You're still in front of your microphone, and you can be expressing and moving and talking and telling your story, but you're still keeping yourself at the same distance to your microphone, so you can make sure that your levels are good and that everything sounds great, but you can still bring the energy. You can use your arms and your hands and your feet and your legs, and still there, you're right there in front of the mic. See, so you can do it. You absolutely can do it. And again, I mentioned earlier about embracing your voice and loving your voice and having that confidence. It's a big factor. I know people, and I've worked with authors who are great writers, but when it comes to speaking, like, oh, I hate public speaking. It makes them nervous. A lot of people have this nervousness when it comes to public speaking, or maybe just, putting a microphone or having a microphone in front of them makes them a little nervous. Well, we need to build the confidence and not allow that to be a barrier to stop you from, narrating your own audiobook. There shouldn't be any barriers at all. You should be very confident. The confidence that you had when you wrote your book is what you're just bringing forth when you are doing your audiobook narration. So speaking of audiobook narration, let's talk about the process a little bit. In case you haven't done an audiobook, or you are planning on doing an audiobook and narrating your own audiobook, which I hope you are, because remember, all nonfiction authors need to narrate their own audiobook because no one can replicate you. All right? It's your voice. No one can tell your story better than you can, because you wrote it and you've experienced it and you put your blood, sweat, and tears into this great book that you've published. You should be the one to be narrating your own audiobook. So when you do your audiobook narration, the beauty about it is that you don't have to sit there and grab your book and just read it, from beginning to end in one sitting, because you know what? You can't do that. You can't do that, because it's going to take all your energy out of you, and you won't sound great by the time you get to the end of your book. So the beauty about recording your audiobook is that it is done in sections. For example, when I wrote my book called Lights Action You, I have 14 chapters in this book. Well, that's 14 separate audio files that I have for my audiobook. And then there are going to be other things in your book that you will record separately, like your opening credits, closing credits, maybe you have a dedication that you would like to have a separate audio file for. If you have an introduction, maybe you have a preface, maybe you have a foreword, maybe you have an afterword, you have a prologue, an epilogue. There's a lot of parts of the book that will be separate audio files. Okay, and it makes it so much easier actually through the recording process. And that's where being an audiobook coach, helping the authors through that process and making sure that they're doing the number one thing that needs to be done, and that is consistency. Being consistent from opening credits to closing credits. Consistency involves your mic levels, your audio levels. Consistency, of course, means your energy and your emotion. That has to be consistent, because that intangible is what draws your listener in. When you have the energy and emotion and you're bringing that forth, that's what makes a compelling audiobook. That's what, again, keeps your listener engaged and on the edge of their seat. And when they're done listening to your audiobook, I guarantee you they'll go back and listen to it again because you did such a great job of narrating. Something that I want to share with you, when I work with the authors who go through the audiobook coaching program, I coach them through the process, and then they send their files to me for editing, because I am an audio editor as well. And I provide that service as part of the program. So you don't have to find an editor. You don't have to find somebody to make sure that your audio files are clean and that they are meeting the exact specifications for publication. I handle that for you. And I even handle for the authors who go through the program, I upload their files for them into Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books, so that you don't have to worry about it. If there are any issues, I know about them right away. I can fix them, and it's done. So you're guaranteed 100% published. So it takes a lot of the burden off of you as the narrator to not have to worry about those types of things. But again, consistency is key. You want to keep that energy level. But when I'm doing my final mixes, and this is what I wanted to share with you, I am always amazed on how great these authors sound. And these are authors who are not experienced speakers, yet they do such a great job narrating their own audiobook because, again, no one can interpret their book better than they can. That's why you are the most qualified person to narrate your own audiobook. And then I'm doing this mix. Let's say I'm working on one of the chapters and I do the final mix, and I find myself getting so involved and just sucked into their story because their narration is so good. And that's a testament to the author, right? It's a testament to you as the author that you do have what it takes to do a great audiobook narration. You have the goods. It's all here in your voice. And it's all, again, ingrained in your unique DNA, because that is your style. And that is what encompasses who you are as an author and your author brand. And it's just amazing to hear these authors do their narration. And every story, I just get so sucked into their story. And if they, haven't sent me the next chapter to work on, I'm like, hey guys, send it in, man. I want to know what happens next, because, I don't want to jump ahead and just read their book. I mean, I do follow along, of course, to make sure everything is perfect. But, I want to hear them tell me the story. And it's just so great. And it brings me just so much joy. And I'm so grateful to be able to help these authors create their audiobook. And they sound so good. And you will too when you do yours. But, again, consistency is king, right? One thing that you do have to keep in mind when you are recording your audiobook is just being aware of your physical body as well, because you do get fatigued. And maybe your voice is scratchy and sore. Maybe it doesn't sound as good as the day before when you recorded. Be aware of these things because, again, as I say, consistency is king. You have to be consistent. If your voice is not sounding the same, you don't want it to sound different, because think of it from the experience of the listener who's listening to the final product. All right, they are listening to your audiobook, and if you sound in one chapter you sound one way, and then the following chapter you had a sore throat and it all doesn't sound the same, it's inconsistent. And that's going to kind of take them out of the zone of enjoying your book. So consistency really is important. So just be aware of fatigue, be aware of your physical body, keep yourself hydrated. These are all things that are really important from a physical standpoint to make sure that your narration sounds great and that you do have consistency from opening credits to closing credits. All right. I do want to touch on some more aspects of doing a great audiobook narration and how to be unique and preserving and bringing forth that power of authenticity. We're going to take our last break for this edition of the podcast. This is the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. By the way, I am your host, Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. Go to robertlanecoaching.com for more information about what I do as an audiobook coach and producer. And we will continue when we come back. This is streaming live, by the way, on the Bold Brave TV network.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
And welcome back to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching, and we are streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Glad you're here. We're talking about how every voice has its own unique DNA. And again, I am a firm believer that every nonfiction author who has a great published book out there, if you don't have an audiobook, you need to narrate your own audiobook because no one can tell your story better than you can. Nobody. You have a great voice and you have the talent, you really do have the talent and the voice to do a great audiobook narration. So just to kind of sum up some of the concepts that we talked about today, remember your DNA encompasses everything about you. That's who you are and that's what makes you so unique. All right. And when you do an audiobook, remember you are creating this unparalleled connection with your listener because they feel like you're talking directly to them. And why they feel that way is because you're bringing forth the authenticity, which involves your energy and your style and your pacing and just the way you present yourself. Your unique voice is already in your written word, and when you narrate your own audiobook, you're just preserving the integrity of your unique style. And that preserves, again, the integrity of your author brand because you are a brand. Your book and your writing style is your brand. Your product, of course, is your ebook, your paperback, your hardcover, and your audiobook. So you're giving your followers and your readers and listeners this great choice of products for them to enjoy your book. And one thing that I do want to mention is that, the audiobook world continues to grow and expand, and it has over the last several years. Back in 2019, audiobook revenue sales did surpass ebook sales, which is a pretty amazing thing, and that gap continues to widen. Not that people aren't buying ebooks, paperbacks, and hardcovers, because they are. I do. When I purchase an audiobook from an author that I just am really excited to hear them narrate their own book, I usually pick up their paperback as well, because especially if it's something that has a lot of valuable information, because I like to listen and then just highlight some great quotes or some concepts that they have in their book, so I have a physical copy of it while I'm listening. So that again can boost revenue sales for all formats of your product. So that's another great way to utilize your audiobook, especially for those of you who are coaches, or maybe you have a topic in your book that would be a great keynote speech, or a great thing to do speaking engagements for groups and organizations, or even corporations, depending on what your book is about. And you can utilize your audiobook as a calling card to get these events. Send a free copy of your audiobook to an event planner and say, hey, this is how I sound. This is my latest book. I want you to have a copy of it and enjoy it. Would love to speak to your community, your event, or whatever it is. And one of the authors that have gone through my program, they actually have done that and are doing speaking engagements in their city. They live in New York, and they've been doing some really great work. And they have a coaching program as well, and getting people to sign up into their coaching program by using their book and using their audiobook as a tool to get these speaking engagements. And it's a great thing, because you know what? You are the expert in your field, and your book and having a book and having an audiobook is proof of your expertise. And people love that. And they do look at you as the expert because you do have published product, and that's a great thing, right? So when you are doing your audiobook, remember, be authentic, be your authentic self. Have somebody specific that you're talking to, a specific person, not a specific genre, a specific person, because that helps bring out not only your authenticity, but also being very conversational, because you want your listener to just really enjoy listening to you tell your story. All right. Just, they get so engaged into your book, and they love listening to you because you want them to feel like you're speaking directly to them. Now, if you don't have an audiobook yet, I would love to speak with you and help you turn your book into an audiobook. And we're going to put up a graphic for those of you who can see the podcast. For those of you who are listening, of course, I'll give you the link as well. Love to talk to you about your book. Tell me about it, what your marketing goals are, and I'll give you more details about the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. The link to book your call, this is directly to my calendar link. So book a call. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. It's a free audiobook consultation call at bit.ly/audiobook onboarding. That's bit.ly/audiobook onboarding. Love again to talk about your book. And of course, please pick up your free narration reference guide. I have an audiobook narration reference guide for you to download. And that is also at this link. It's another bit.ly link, which is bit.ly/narration reference guide. bit.ly/narration reference guide. Again, you can go to my website at robertlanecoaching.com. There it is on the screen. Pretty interesting. I forgot that I made that for Bold Brave TV. Thanks for putting that up there. But there you go. robertlanecoaching.com has all the information about the audiobook coaching program and what I do as an audiobook coach and producer. Again, I come from an entertainment background, so I've been doing audio post-production for many, many, many years. And I've been a coach for 4+ years as well. So you're getting a lot of experience. And when you do enroll into the Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program, I provide you with the equipment you need: a professional microphone, a professional headset. All that stuff is provided for you as part of the program. And then as you do your audiobook, I'm editing your files for you, and I upload them all your files for you, so you will be published on Audible, Amazon, and Apple by the end of the 6-week program. All right. That's what I do. I love doing it. I love helping authors. And remember this, you as a nonfiction author need to narrate your own audiobook. You are the most qualified to do it, and you have the talent and the voice to do a great audiobook narration. All right. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. My assignment to you is this: when you're out and about, smile at a stranger, say hello to them, give them a compliment, because that small amount of time, maybe 10 seconds of your time, can make the world of difference in somebody's life. So go out there, my friends, be great humans, and we'll talk to you next week on the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. We're streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. We'll talk to you next week, my friends. Take care.
This has been Your Book, Your Voice with host Robert A. Lane. Tune in each week for another powerful and informative episode of Your Book, Your Voice, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.